Good evening and welcome to Chicago Tonight. I'm Brandis Friedman here in our Northwest Side studio.
And I'm Schutz live on the Chicago River.
On the show tonight.
When we're at a point where we are as well controlled as we are, it is the time, right?
The city and state prepare to fully reopen, but Chicago's top doctor says challenges may still lie ahead.
The labor pool is really has been decimated for the hospitality industry by COVID-19.
How downtown businesses are preparing for the new normal in a fully open Chicago.
I'm Angel Ito, and coming up tonight, we'll have a closer look at 26 of the original works by artist Frida Kahlo.
And Brandis, as we mentioned, I'm co-anchoring tonight on the Chicago River on the Shoreline Sightseeing Cruise headed northbound right now. We're going to talk about all sectors of Chicago's hospitality, entertainment, and tourism industry on the eve of Chicago's full reopening and why that's going to present a new set of challenges for all of those business. But now, Brandis, we toss it back to you.
Co-anchoring, I see what you did there. Thank you, Paris. Now to some of today's top stories. The Chicago Police Department is making progress in monitoring its body camera videos, but still has some work to do. That's according to a report from the city's Inspector General. That report claims that while the department has improved the process for supervisors to review randomly selected videos, it hasn't developed policies for supervisors to identify instances where body camera video should have been recorded but wasn't. The report is a follow-up to a 2019 investigation. If you're a regular viewer of this program, you know we have been updating you on the state COVID numbers daily for more than a year. And we'll continue to monitor those numbers and broadcast them periodically. But with the reopening tomorrow and the dropping numbers, this will be our last daily report of these statewide statistics. The Illinois Department of Public Health announces 366 new cases of COVID-19, including 18 additional deaths. The total number of cases since the pandemic began is 1.386 million cases, and 23,014 people have died. And just over 44% of Illinoisans are now fully vaccinated. And as the city heads towards reopening tomorrow, it's giving Chicagoans more reasons to head back to the Loop, whether or not they work there. The mayor's office today announced the Central City Recovery Roadmap to guide the revitalization of downtown, which includes safe, reliable public transportation, enhanced bike and pedestrian infrastructure, and new events. Those new events include Meet Me on the Mile, Lunch on LaSalle, and Sundays on State, where parts of those streets will be closed off for visitors and employees to enjoy free live performances and outdoor dining. And we'll have more details on the city and state's full reopening plan in just a few moments. And everyone's favorite pair of piping plovers, Monty and Rose, are expecting again. Just a week after losing their nest and 4 eggs to a skunk attack, the lovebirds have built a new nest with at least 1 egg. Wildlife officials have placed another structure around the nest to protect it, this one stronger and larger than the last and equipped with cameras. Volunteers are keeping an eye on the nest and the expectant parents who take turns incubating. Plover eggs typically hatch in about 30 days. And there's much more of this story on our website. So get ready. Chicago and the rest of Illinois will fully reopen tomorrow without any capacity limits. But that news is a double-edged sword for many in the hospitality and entertainment industries. The crowds may be coming back, but will the labor force return? As part of our Chicago Tonight in Your Neighborhood series, Paris Schutz spent the day in and around downtown to see if Chicago's all-important tourism industry is primed to recover from 15 months partially or fully shut down. Paris joins us now aboard the Shoreline Sightseeing Boat Tour on the Chicago River, not in it. Paris, are you hearing a lot of optimism?
Absolutely bounding with optimism in all sectors of the tourism and hospitality industry as we flip around here and start to head south on the Chicago River. Brandis, that presents a new set of challenges for all these businesses, however. Now, it was a very emotional day this afternoon at the Hilton Chicago on South Michigan Avenue as the iconic hotel opened its doors for the first time in 15 months. So it was completely shut down to guests. As you see, General Manager John Wells performing a ceremonial door unlocking. He welcomed back around 200 hotel staff that had been furloughed. And he says that the hotel is going to start with about 25% capacity with hopes to ramp up to 100% by Lollapalooza, but that will not be easy.
Every guest room has 24 batteries. No one ever thought of that. That's 37,000 batteries that we had to purchase. If you lined them all up, it would nearly stretch from here to the Drake Hotel. Flipping all the mattresses again, having 65,000 pieces of linen and terry that had to be cleaned. It's a lot of work.
A lot of work, but workers like lobby porter Nalita Cruz say they are thrilled to be back on the job.
This is a big company, and they decide to reopen. So if they don't reopen, maybe I decide to stay home because I'm almost retired already. So, but they call me, I decide to come back to work. I like to work.
Now, this might be the exception to the rule in the hospitality industry, as there is a genuine labor shortage right now. Many folks leaving this industry for good.
They are hearing no pretty often from employees for a variety of reasons, childcare, or people might have left the market. We lost a lot of employees either out of our industry or out of our city. We saw a lot of our employees go to states that reopened quicker or weren't shut down as dramatically, like Florida, Arizona, Texas, where their hotel industry wasn't impacted as much as it was here in Illinois. So it's certainly a challenge of getting people back to work and making sure that we're staffed at a level to accommodate what we know are going to be an influx of guests.
And for this reason and others, Jacobson is lobbying Mayor Lightfoot for $75 million out of that federal COVID relief funding to go directly to the hotel industry. As numbers continue to rise, official statistics from Chicago's tourism office show a steady week-over-week increase in capacity and occupancy, approaching 50% right now, although most customers aren't traveling very far.
So we have a lot of local and regional travelers coming in from Indiana, Wisconsin, or the suburbs and spending a weekend. So it's those individuals that are just down here for fun. What we need back is corporate travel and then the conventions.
Restaurant industry struggling with the same issues. The owner of the Dearborn in the Loop, Clodagh Lawless, says she's thrilled at the return in demand. It's exceeded her expectations, but there is a concerning labor shortage in the restaurant industry as well, as places like hers are struggling to meet this demand with not a full workforce.
The labor pool is really has been decimated for the hospitality industry by COVID-19. Women in the labor force have been forced to stay at home because they can't get childcare, and it would be maybe more in their interest for them to stay at home than to pay for childcare. It's also just the shock, the complete shell shock and decimation of our industry where especially veterans who have given 20 years of their life to this industry, they've decided, I'm out, I'm going, changing jobs, changing careers.
It's a great time to apply for work in the restaurant and hospitality industry. Another cog in Chicago's tourism machine is the theater and performance arts sector. The League of Chicago Theaters says that most venues will be back in business by August, staging plays that they had planned to do last year. They say that they're confident that if actors and other workers moved out of town during the pandemic, they're going to come back.
Certain people relocated for various reasons, but there's work here, and that's what's always made Chicago thrive, is that Chicago supports an enormous theater scene, but also there's a strong burgeoning film and television scene. And so the actors will go where the work is, the artists will go where the work is, and we have work to offer now for the first time in a long time.
And Colin says demand for tickets has exceeded his expectations over at the Goodman Theater and other theaters. So that's what we're hearing across all sectors. And now we're joined by Laura Decker of Shoreline Sightseeing. So Laura, first of all, welcome to Chicago tonight. It's great to be on the Chicago River.
Thank you. Welcome aboard to Shoreline Sightseeing.
It's good to be aboard. So what are you seeing in terms of demand for river tours right now?
We are very excited. We have had a great response throughout the pandemic of people wanting to come on the boats, but obviously come tomorrow. We are just thrilled to be at 100%, and the demand keeps rising, and we're thrilled.
Okay, so what we're hearing in hotels and hospitality is there's a labor shortage. The demand is there, but they can't find the workers to come fill that demand. Are you seeing that too?
We are seeing that as well. We have hired back people who want to come back. We are still actively looking for licensed boat captains and docents and bartenders, and it has been a struggle to find people who want to come back to work right now.
Those all sound like really fun jobs.
It is. We're working on a boat.
Absolutely. You're working. This is your office, the Chicago River. So how difficult has the last 15 months been for your company?
You know, it's been challenging. We, thankfully, since we're an open-air boat, we did get to run our river architecture tours and our lake tours last summer, but that was all. We had to dock our taxis and all of our special events and other options. We couldn't run those, but we were able to run at about 25% of our capacity, and still trying to bounce back from that. We lost about 85% of our revenue, so we're jumping over that hurdle now. We're trying to just recover from the last 15 months.
So, Laura, what do you think tomorrow's going to look like here on the river?
There's going to be a lot of excitement from our crew. There's going to be a lot of excitement people watching from the river. We think the demand is going to be just skyrocket as it has the last month and a half, and we're just so ready to welcome everyone back to shoreline sightseeing.
And what's different about the river cruises right now that perhaps wasn't the case a year and a half, 2 years ago?
So the architecture tours, the architecture is always changing in Chicago. Right now there's many buildings that were built over the pandemic years or months, and
felt like years.
Felt like years, it really did. And there are new things to be talked about. The docents have new fun tips and tricks to show you and tell you all about our tours. So.
All right, well, we're just kicking off a tour right now. Where are we? We're at Madison. We're right by the Lyric.
Right by the Lyric Opera House.
Heading south toward the Willis Tower. Brandis, we're going to enjoy the tour here on the Chicago River and toss it back to you, and maybe we'll say hi again before the end of the show.
Maybe, if you're not too busy enjoying the architecture. Thank you, Ferris. Up next, Phil Ponce and the city's top doctor on the day we've all been waiting for, the city's full reopening.
As we've noted, Chicago and the state of Illinois are set to fully reopen after nearly 15 months of pandemic restrictions. That means starting tomorrow, people who are fully vaccinated can go without masks in most situations, although there are exceptions for congregate settings in public transport, and masks are still recommended for the unvaccinated. Conventions, festivals, and other large events can go ahead without COVID capacity restrictions. The outdoor mask requirement for schools will be lifted in line with CDC guidelines, but businesses are encouraged to continue to allow social distancing, especially indoors. Joining us now to talk about the reopening is Dr. Allison Arwady, Commissioner of the Chicago Department of Public Health. Commissioner Arwady, thank you for joining us. This must be a pretty big event for you, given everything that the city has gone through.
It is. We are so excited to be at a point where COVID's not over, but boy, is it the time to move ahead with reopening and enjoy this amazing city this summer.
Well, how confident are you that, given this lifting of restrictions in large part, that there might not be a resurgence?
So we're really feeling good, particularly in the short term here. The biggest piece of this has been due to vaccines, but we're at a point where we are at the lowest cases, the lowest hospitalizations, the lowest ICU, and everything is heading in the right direction. And it's been doing that while we've been turning that dial on reopening. So absolutely, we have no threat right now to our healthcare system. We have a widely available vaccine, and our numbers are heading the right way. So it is the time to reopen, even if COVID's not entirely over. It's a great day.
Doctor, this week it was confirmed that the Delta variant, which was first identified in India, has now been discovered in Illinois. In fact, there are about 100 variants in Illinois. How big a threat are those variants?
So we've detected all of the known variants of concern here in Illinois and here in Chicago. The good news is that all three of the authorized vaccines here in the U.S. do remain protective against all of the known variants, although we start to see perhaps some decrease in that protection. So certainly we're concerned where we see new variants emerging, and we double down on our work with contact tracing and working to contain that. But really the most important thing is that if we can get even more people vaccinated, we won't have as much opportunity for these more potentially contagious or potentially more dangerous variants to take hold even more.
Speaking of people who are unvaccinated, cases of the coronavirus remain highest among African American Chicagoans, and in fact the vaccination rate is highest on the south side. What to do about that?
So, yeah, we're definitely seeing the highest rates of vaccination in white and Asian Chicagoans and lagging somewhat in Latinx Chicagoans, and then even further behind among Black Chicagoans. And we're very focused on the less vaccinated neighborhoods because that is absolutely where we are seeing cases, hospitalizations, even deaths being clustered. And that all has to do with the fact that the social networks are not well vaccinated. So what we've seen is since vaccine has been available, the first opportunity people in Chicago had to be fully vaccinated was in January. 97% of the hospitalizations here in Chicago have been in people who were not fully vaccinated. 98% of the deaths in people who are not fully vaccinated. So we're doing a lot of work, especially in the 13 least vaccinated communities, literally going door to door, knocking on every door, signing people up for vaccines on the spot, sending our buses out, going to parks and beaches, going to food pantries and job fairs, going to schools, going to churches, going to festivals, going to wherever people are to make vaccine easily available, and then trying to pair that with good community messaging from trusted messengers who have gotten the vaccine and seen how it can really lead to less worry and help protect the community.
Yesterday, the CDC announced that the State Department of Public Health, that Cook County's Department of Public Health, and the Chicago Department of Public Health will get more than $84 million to address COVID-related health disparities. How much money is the city getting, and what are you going to do with it, do you think?
Yeah, so we're getting in the range of $30 million. It's really exciting. We are investing most of this toward what we're calling our health equity zones. So we've learned so much in COVID about how to work really well with community-based organizations, with our federally qualified health centers and other health partners. And we want to keep this network going. We've done a lot of hiring in partnership with community-based organizations, particularly on the west and south sides that have been hardest hit from COVID. And so as we look ahead, we want to be able to use the funding that is specifically focused on health equity and working on health disparities, which is already the core mission for the health department. We want to get that out to community-based organizations and move beyond COVID to think about chronic diseases and all of the other things that really make our opportunities to live long lives not equal here in Chicago.
Earlier this week, you said that the city was experiencing, quote, exponential decay in the number of COVID cases. Is the city at herd immunity levels yet?
So there's no magic number for herd immunity. If we were to see, quote, herd immunity, it would mean even if a case of COVID were detected, it really would not have anywhere to spread. Unfortunately, that's not what we're seeing. Where cases of COVID are detected, we continue through our contact tracing to see COVID spread, especially among very unvaccinated parts of the city or among groups of friends, families, neighbors that are not well vaccinated. So we're not at herd immunity. But the thing is, every time you break a chain of transmission, especially when numbers start to come under control, you can cut off more and more opportunities for COVID to spread. And that is what we're seeing. So I'm really confident looking ahead, particularly in the short term over this summer, that we will remain in good control, particularly if we keep making good progress on vaccination.
Even though cases are going down and there's this reopening push, is COVID something that people are just going to have to live with long term? Is this something that we're just going to have to continue to address in the way that it has been addressed in order to ameliorate its impact?
So we'll see. I do not expect that we will eradicate, meaning get rid of COVID entirely, unless there is, for example, a new medication that is developed that can completely eliminate it. And I don't see anything like that on the horizon shortly. It is also so widespread worldwide, and there are many countries that still have not even begun to vaccinate their population, and we have a really global society, that I do think COVID is here with us for some time. What we'll be watching for is to see how seasonal is this? Is this something that becomes part of our, cold and flu season? If it does, this could be something that we could need to be doing additional vaccinating around if we were to see cases return in the fall. We're setting up a lot of data monitoring to make sure we can understand and do more lab testing around things like variants, really make sure we're as prepared as we can be for whatever comes. But again, getting vaccinated is how we turn this from a disease that has killed so many people and just shattered so many people's lives in Chicago, potentially turn it into something that we don't have to worry about more than we do colds or other, some of the other viruses.
Dr. Arbody, thank you so much for your time on this very significant date. We appreciate it.
It's such an exciting landmark. Thank you, Chicago, for getting us this far.
And up next, untold stories about artist Frida Kahlo in a new exhibit featuring more than 20 of her original pieces. So please stay with us.
Chicago Tonight is made possible in part through the generous support of the Julius Frankel Foundation.
For the first time since the late 70s, a portion of artist Frida Kahlo's original works are in the Chicago area as part of a new exhibition. Arts correspondent Angel Ito takes us for a visit and gives us a closer look at how Frida Kahlo's life experience influenced her work.
While she's known as one of the most influential Mexican painters of our time, a new exhibit honoring the late artist hopes to tell stories not commonly shared of Frida Kahlo.
The idea behind this was to give people context to her life, who she was, her influence, and not only about her, but what was going on in that period.
The first portion of the exhibit tells just that, a breakdown of who Kahlo was before she became an artist, leading up to a moment that would arguably define her work forever. A severe bus accident would require her to have more than 30 surgeries and force her to wear corsets for the rest of her life. But it was in her recovery period that she found ingenuity within her developing craft. This is a recreation of the bed that Frida Kahlo painted some of her earliest self-portraits in, all with the help of a mirror.
Think about this young 18-year-old girl that's confined, it's vibrant and depressed. They created an easel that she could use while lying in bed. And they put a mirror underneath the canopy so that she could see herself. And so she started painting self-portraits. And she said, I often paint self-portraits because I am so often alone. And I am the subject I know best.
Now, once visitors have gotten to know the woman behind the artist, they're encouraged to use that knowledge to better interpret 26 of Kahlo's original works, borrowed from the Dolores Almedo collection.
Everyone can recognize the eyebrows, the clothes, the hair pulled up, but those are very superficial, kind of exterior representations of who she was. I think the opportunity to see these actual works in person is an opportunity to get as close to hearing Frida tell her own story. She speaks very directly and honestly about the challenges in her life. That has an honesty and an intensity that's coupled with the intensity of the images themselves, so it's almost like they're supercharged.
But the figures in her work are so recognizable, many argue that Kahlo's style was based in surrealism, an idea she rejected. But it's because of the stories within her stories that curator Justin Whitty describes her style as symbolic realism, most notably seen in her broken column self-portrait.
You have Frida exposed, the center of her chest kind of opened up, and you see in replaced of a spine, a column that's been shattered and cracked and is barely holding on. And then she herself and that column are kind of held together by this medical corset. And then on top of that crumbling, fragile column, you have Kahlo's head staring out at the viewer. And although she has tears coming out of her face expressive of the pain that she's in, her look is in no way resigned to the pain. And it's unapologetic. She did not run away from these realities in her life. She did not try to diminish herself because of them. And she was an incredibly strong, powerful woman and artist who spoke truthfully through her work, even when that truth was painful.
For Chicago Tonight, I'm Angel Ito.
And you can check out the exhibit, Frida Kahlo, Timeless, until September 6th at the Cleve Carney Museum of Art, located in the Mackinac Arts Center in Glen Ellen. And now we check back in with Paris Schutz, who spent the day around the Riverwalk as part of our In Your Neighborhood series. He joins us now from the Chicago River, quite literally. You can see him moving there. Paris, how big a problem is the hospitality labor shortage that you mentioned earlier?
Well, Brandis, that's a problem we heard across all sectors of the hospitality, tourism, and entertainment industries that we interviewed today. They're seriously concerned about that. They are not finding the workers that they used to have, the labor pool that they used to have. And there's been a lot made about the fact that the added unemployment might be urging people to stay home and not go back to work, and maybe restaurants and hotels and other sectors have to look at wages to see if they're paying competitive wages. But representatives of all these industries say that's not the whole story. It's folks worried about child care. It's folks that have left the industry, that have retired, that have moved away, that have switched to other jobs. So this is going to be something to watch over the next weeks, because everybody said they're shocked at the demand. The demand has been steadily rising even before the announcement of the full reopening, and tomorrow and this weekend is going to be something else. So anyway, Brandis, that we're right about back at the Willis Tower here, heading northbound again on the Chicago River.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're going to have to get off that boat at some point, Paris. But obviously, it's a problem we'll have to keep watching, not just over this next weekend, but also in the weeks to come. But that is our show for this Thursday night. Don't forget to stay connected with us by signing up for our daily briefing. And you can get Chicago Tonight streamed on Facebook, YouTube, and our website, WTTW.com/news.
You can also get the show via podcast and the PBS video app. And please join us tomorrow night live at 7 for the Week in Review. And now for all of us here at Chicago Tonight, I'm Paris Schutz.
And I'm Brandis Friedman. Thank you for watching. Stay healthy and safe, and have a good night.